Welcome back to Intro to Physical Anthropology. I am your instructor, David Leitner. Today, we are going to talk about how we should think about the Australopithecine radiation. What's it tell us? So without further ado, let's get started. One of the first things we should notice is that there is cohabitation, there's sympatry. There are multiple species of Australopith on the landscape at the same time. Diversify or compete. That is the call of the day. In most cases, the robust gracile split probably reflects changes in diet and ecological niches as a result of diversifying to occupy the same landscape. They're likely occupying different ecological niches, using different resources in that same environment, or using them differently. For most of the history of hominins, this is absolutely the history of hominins, right? We are not alone, as it were. Until very recently, about 27,000 years ago, is when the last sort of signs of Neanderthals show up. And after that, nothing. It's just us on the landscape, it looks like. So think about this. For this incredibly short amount of time, in terms of the amount of time our entire species has been around, let alone our whole genus, we have been alone. And it's the first time since the beginning that that's happened. What's that mean? Well, we'll get into that a little bit later in the semester. Okay, so what does cohabitation look like? Well, if we look, like there is, even around 6 million years ago, you've got Sahelanthropus and Auroran, 3.9, you've got Australopithecus, somewhere in between there you've got Anamensis and Ardipithecus, you've got Afarensis and Anamensis at the same time, Anamensis, this explosion of diversity, and this sort of this steady presence in East Africa and then spreading out into South Africa. We haven't explored West Africa that well, so we may end up filling in these gaps over here. Now, what were the Australopiths like? Well, Dart proposed what he called an osteodontocheratic culture. That's a fancy way of saying bone, tooth, and claw. Osteo means bone, donto means tooth, cheratic is claw. Now, to some degree, he might have been right, at least with the bone, tooth, claw sort of remark, in terms of, using animal resources as tools. Not in a very complicated way, not doing significant modification of these items to make them better tools, but mainly just sort of using them as tools as they are, for the most part, or with minor modifications. Dart assumed they were bloodthirsty. I've mentioned before, this is largely a sort of early 20th century obsession with this kind of, state of nature of lawlessness and where in nature everything is sort of at the whim of its impulses, whereas in human civilization we control that. It's all very weird stuff. So it wasn't unusual he would propose this. We think it's completely wrong at this point. I mean, it's not even clear. I mean, we just don't have a lot of evidence about, at least of interpersonal violence. We know they were preyed upon frequently by other animals. We know that they didn't really create weapons that have remained in the archaeological record or been preserved, because if they're made of organic material, they probably won't. They're less likely to than, say, stone is. And to be honest, when we look at the behavior of even chimpanzees, although they have some incredibly violent episodes, that is not the norm most of the time in their societies. It is a very rare event, as it is in most human societies too. We have to sort of bear that in mind. We're not that different in that respect. Doesn't mean that violence doesn't happen. Doesn't mean that conflict doesn't happen. Doesn't mean hunting doesn't happen. But by and large, we think the Australopiths were largely vegetarian or insectivorous. Probably the gracile were definitely frugivores. The robust were eating much tougher material. But by and large, yeah, we don't think there was a ton of sort of bloodthirstiness going on here. So the modern view is a little more, I wouldn't say peaceful, but a little less sensationalized. What about tools and intelligence? Well, there's definitely evidence for them having made and used tools. Some disputed evidence about stone tool use, like it's very sketchy and very rare, and it certainly wasn't the norm, and it doesn't show up until quite late as well, usually around the same time that Homo habilis exists, right? And they made tools too. They made stone tools too. We do find animal bones on them with some tool marks, which means that there at least there may have been some defleshing going on. Although those interpretations may not hold up, it's difficult to tell. But it looks like there was at least some butchering. That doesn't mean they were hunting, though. It could mean that they were scavenging. In fact, it's more likely they were scavenging than hunting because, frankly, that especially by this point, they really are living in these sort of grasslands in Africa, and that's not a safe place to hang around hunting things. You want to, if you find something, you want to take it away from that site before whatever killed it comes back. The hand anatomy does look similar enough to other tool making and tool using hominins that they probably could. Their finger bones, their phalanges they're a little more curved than ours are, but much less curved than, say, Ardipithecus or a gorilla or a chimpanzee. Something that lives largely in the trees. So they were definitely ground adapted and had the ability to use tools. Their fingers were shorter so they can manipulate things more easily. Now, tools do imply some kind of intelligence, but we should be careful that we don't read too much into that, at least with early tool use, because this could be tool use on a par with other organisms that use tools today. And while they may be more sophisticated and intelligent than we give them credit for today, it doesn't necessarily mean we're like talking about the same kind of intelligence you and I think about when we think about intelligence. That said, tools don't show up until about 2.5 million years ago. So tools did not play a part in how Australopiths came to be. They may have been adopted as a strategy later on. Okay, finally though, the one thing I want to sort of point out is that the fossil evidence is still relatively sparse. It's plentiful, and it's more plentiful than other times in the past. But we still have a lot we don't know. The different interpretations of these phylogenies comes from that as a direct result of that. We need to discover more before we can say for sure what the family tree looks like. Let alone, by the way, which of these lines led to us. In fact, actually, whether we ever actually have that exact line is doubtful. But we'll have something like it at some point. That is it for today. I hope you are taking care and have a good week, and I will see you soon.